What is the weirdest reason someone stopped dating you? Story 1. I had a friend who wanted kids. Her longtime BF had been adamant about not wanting kids. Then she found out she had a condition that would make it a lot harder for her to have kids, possibly impossible. She took the news hard, so did her BF. He still didn't necessarily want kids, but he was really upset the choice had been taken out of his hands. They argued because she thought the only silver lining in the situation was that he didn't want kids anyway. They briefly broke up. He told her he was a dick. They got back together. 8 years later, they're married with 2 kids. Story 2. I was too nice. Briefly dated a guy, and he said it was a turnoff that I was super friendly with staff at restaurants or grocery stores, gladly holding doors open for others, smiling when I pass people on the street, that kind of thing. Apparently, he wanted someone who valued themselves more, and that being nice like that is advertising I'm a doormat. Bullet dodged. Story 3. I was an EMT. We went to see Twilight New Moon. A guy a few rows ahead had a seizure. I had them stop the movie and call an ambulance while I got the guy out of the aisle so he wouldn't hurt himself against something. They refunded everyone and canceled the show. Never heard from my date again. Story 4. As far as I know, all the times I've been dumped have been for legit reasons. However, there is one that stands out from the rest of that long and distinguished list. At my high school, we had these speakers overhead for announcements and such, but they would also play these really loud beeping tones whenever the bell rang. We're walking down the hall one day right after school let out, and she decides that she's going to dump me. It just so happened that we were standing right underneath one of these speakers at the time. I just don't think we should be together anymore because bong, 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 off goes the final warning bell for bus riders, and she trots away with her face in her hands, deeply moved by whatever it was she's just said. It's been 27 years, nearly to the day actually, and I still have no idea how that sentence was supposed to end. I never asked her about it because, being 15 at the time, I just played it off like I didn't care and didn't want to look bad by going back and asking her why. So I've just kind of accepted that it's one of those unsolved mysteries that I'll just never know the answer to. At this point, not knowing is almost more fun. Got a cool story to tell on Reddit out of the deal anyway. Story 5. In high school, I knew a guy who broke up with a girl he adored because his friends started calling him a chubby chaser. Frankly, I thought she was adorable, and maybe 30 lb is overweight at the most, but more importantly, she made him happier than I'd ever seen him. I felt as bad for him as I did for her when he broke up with her. He said she told him, "I thought you were better than this. I'm disappointed in you," when he told her they should stop seeing each other. Story 6. I told him that I do a basic check of my dates' names in the provincial crime database. It just searches for public files. I was a 24-year-old girl, living alone in the middle of a big city, so I always checked out the guys before getting into their cars. This came up naturally, and the guy flipped out about how I was a narc and how I can't be trusted. Weirdly, his name pulled up nothing, not even a parking ticket. Story 7. I bought her a talking troll doll. Remember the troll doll fad in the 90s? She hated them, but I had no idea. I saw one that spoke some trendy phrase she used a lot and bought it for her. She broke up with me later that week and said she hates troll dolls and just can't see me the same way. That's all right. Her dad and I are still good friends 30 years later. Story 8. I don't know about the reason being weird, but a guy I went out with only a couple times broke up with me right before our date because I hadn't slept with him yet, and he found a girl who put out faster than I did. I was genuinely relieved because sometimes the trash just takes itself out. A couple months later, he had the audacity to hit me up and ask if I'd be interested in dating again. Story 9. He wanted to be with someone he could talk to about things that interest him, like quantum physics. He literally worked in IT and only watched one documentary about physics, and I guess that gave him superior intelligence. Story 10. I'm an artist. This guy and I were fairly compatible and I could see us building a solid life together, but the sexual chemistry was not there at all. I didn't have the guts to tell him that, though. I mentioned over dinner how much I liked glitter as an artist to add texture to my work. He immediately expressed his extreme distaste for glitter, even saying how he wouldn't allow it in his house. I saw my chance, okay? I saw my chance to not break a man's self-esteem and say how bad at sex he was, and I took it. I might have exaggerated my love for glitter, a little, but this man became teary-eyed as I talked about all the jars of various glitter I have in my studio. How you can't leave my house without glitter sticking to you. I saw all the love, all the admiration, all the attraction fade from this man's eyes. So he can go on and have terrible sex and not feel bad about himself. I relied on glitter, and it worked. I wish I could say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I went home and used 4 different types of glitter on my next painting. Story 11. This was in high school, summer between 11th and 12th grade. I had a girl that I'd been dating for a couple of months tell me mid-date that she didn't like that I got more attention than her when we walked into a party where we both knew people, so she broke up with me. Story 12. You're a smart and independent woman, and I hate that you're more intelligent than I am. You intimidate me, and you probably won't get along with my family. I still don't know if he was fucking with me, but he actually used these words to break up with me. We were casually dating for a few months. He was a well-educated lawyer from the UK. I was baffled. Story 13. He didn't want to tell me. We lived together. We had lunch one day, and later that day, he came home from work and said, "I want you to leave by the morning. There is no main reason, just a few different things that I don't want to tell you because you'll get hung up on them." Still don't know why 4 years later. He still messages from time to time to hook up, but when I ask him to explain, he still refuses. I think it's really weird. Story 14. I wanted him to wear a clean shirt to my family's largest Easter gathering. There were other factors, but that was the incident that turned him against me. We were together for 3 years. I am still trying to get over the heartbreak and general WTF-ness of it all. Story 15. On Hinge. The other day, I matched with someone talking about Spotify in their profile. I sent a message saying, "What was your song of the year last year?" They told me the name of the song and I admitted I had never heard of it. They then sent, "Is that actually some kind of joke?" I said I genuinely hadn't heard of it and asked who it was by. They then said Taylor Swift, and then I got immediately unmatched, ahaha. Story 16. Because I haven't played Overwatch. We're both cosplayers. He loved Overwatch and wanted me to cosplay as Genji because he cosplayed as Hanzo and had this fantasy or something. I told him I have never played AoE. He went and found a Genji cosplayer he started having an intimate relationship with behind my back while still dating me. Well, practically it was me who left, but let's say I took the hint. I guess it's all right, but the communication was shit. Story 17. In the 2nd grade, Jared took me out for the second date of my life. His mother took us to see the Big Green. On the ride home, she asked what church we went to. We didn't. The next day, Jared was being rather cold. When questioned, he broke it off. He said going to church was the only way to get Jesus in your heart, and that was very important to him and his mom. I didn't see much of Jared again until high school. He had gotten one of those dick piercings and wanted everyone to call him a nickname associated with it. I can't remember. D-ring or D-bag or something. Last I saw him, he was a total chode. Story 18. This happened to me recently. We were planning to move in together. I'm in different city, and the last thing he told me was that he loves me. When I went back to my place, he sent me message saying that he feels awful of the way he is treating me. He has been thinking about his life every day, and he is not a happy person. Also, he realized that he is not in a position to be in a relationship. I tried to reach him and to show all the support. He ignored everything. Till this moment, I still can't believe what happened and why he gave up on everything. Is this his depression or he is just an asshole? Story 19. My now ex-fiancé threw an absolute temper tantrum because I did not agree to change my last name to not his last name. For example, if his name was John Smith, he introduced himself and everyone knew him as John Jones. So he wanted me to change my name to O.P. Jones. He would not accept a hyphen, O.P. last name, Jones, or his own last name, O.P. Smith. He was not rich, and his family was not in politics or well known for anything. Jones was his mom's last name, and he just liked it better. His dad's last name was a normal last name. But why did I need to go through the pain in the butt to change my last name for it to still not be the same as my husband's? I also suggested we both change our last names to Jones, and he said no, he couldn't do that to his dad, but I was supposed to ditch my family name for a random last name. Oh. Story 20. Was this guy I had a crush on in high school back in 2005. He was a tall guy on the football team, and I asked him about, so I was his first girlfriend. We went out for 3 weeks, and then he broke up with me. I don't remember the reason why. Then we went out a second time and lasted a month. Then he told me that he got beat up by some Mexican guys because he was going out with the Mexican girl, so that's why he broke up with me. Fast forward 8 to 10 years later. We are friends, we have friends in common, and also we're just friends in general. We never had anything sexual between us, and we were young. And we've known each other since we were like 13. I asked him on Facebook if the reason he broke up with me in high school was true. He said no. He lied and said that he was beaten up when he really wasn't, because all of his friends on the football team didn't want me to go out with him. He said he apologized, and he was a jerk. Story 21. We were 15 and had been going through some issues. I asked to take a break, and he was devastated. A few days later, and after talking things through, I told him I was open to resuming our relationship if he was. He was ecstatic about this. Later that same day, he randomly broke up with me over a text with a bunch of nasty things to say about me and stating he never loved me, etc. All of this after he griped about how his previous ex had broken up with him over a text. I'm still not sure what all of that was about, but he came from a super toxic household. Story 22, I have two. She liked me too much. To be fair, she was in grad school and had a job lined up once she graduated. We both knew the dating would stop then, 7 months down the road. But she started liking me too much after 2 months, and knew if it went any further she wouldn't want to leave. So, a different girl seemed pretty normal. Dated a few times. Then the first night things got intimate. It got weird. We went to her room, she put pajama tops on, sat on the bed and said, "I'm going lay still, flat on my back. If I remain motionless, you're doing a good job. If I move, make a sound, or talk, it means you are not doing a good job." No foreplay, no mood setting. I couldn't finish. We tried again a few nights later and I couldn't even start. She called me the next day and broke up with me because I wasn't doing anything about my sexual dysfunction. Story 23. I had been through a breakup of a long relationship several months before, so I was seeing this guy pretty casually. Summer ends, and he decided to go to an out-of-state college. We say goodbye, and I figured that was the end of it, but told him we'd keep in touch after he moved. Move-in weekend comes and goes, and I leave him alone to settle into his new space, figuring he'd text me when he was ready. Not even a week goes by, and the guy calls me super upset, saying I abandoned him and that this wasn't going to work. Okay. Honestly, very nice dude, just very emotional. Story 24. She was really into ramen, not even the real stuff, but shitty cup ramen that she put her own meat and vegetables and whatever into. I do not like noodles or meat. Every time she asked me to try it and I refused, I could feel her respect for me slowly dying. We dated about 3 months, and eventually I said no to the ramen one too many times, and she just walked out of my house and I never saw her again. I wasn't really sad as much as I was pleased I no longer had to smell cup ramen every day. Story 25. I got a better job than they did. We met in college. I was an older undergrad, he was a MS student. Same engineering department. We graduated at the same time. I got a much better job largely because he only applied for one. He wanted traditional lifestyle and said he was upset I got the better job. I appreciate and respect his ability to articulate his feelings on this, though. Story 26. I had a guy who told me he couldn't love me because we had never been through anything terrible together. We had only dated for a few months when I was 18. He said he could only love someone if he went through something traumatic with them, like the death of a loved one, as though it was my fault that no one in my family died while we were dating. Story 27. I did a medic training course with the Army, and at the end they took us to a local hospital for a tour. I happened to mention to my GF that we went into the morgue and how creepy it was. When I got back from the course, she had moved out and left a 10-page note going on about how I was now contaminated by the ghosts of every dead person who passed through the morgue. Ever. And I would have to get a Class 1 cleansing or she would never talk to me again. She never talked to me again. Story 28. I didn't want to get out of bed yet. I was playing a game on my phone. X comes up like, "I think you should stop playing that game. You've been playing it all morning." To which I thought was a weird way to say, "Come hang out with me." So I just got pissed, Ovid thought it, and definitely did not want to get out of bed. He comes in and doesn't understand why I'm annoyed. I tell him that it's a me thing, that he doesn't need to take it too personally. He gets all confused and frustrated, and I'm a no bullshit type of person, so I was like, okay, and we got in a small tiff. Next, I just overhear him calling his friend and absolutely losing it. Saying shit like I'm crazy and he can't handle it and how I make a big deal out of nothing. Ulmao. I'm jaded now since I've held him while he cried and comforted him when he was down. The one time, after over 6 months of dating, him having an off day was apparently his breaking point. So I go outside to smoke a bowl. He comes out, sighs until I ask him what's wrong. "I can't do this." "Okay, you don't have to." And that was pretty much it. He said something along the lines of he wasn't fully in from the start. This mofo moved into my house, said I love yous, and left me a hickey the night before. I was just like, get your shit and get out. Clearly only interested in sex. It was civil, but when I had time to actually process everything, I actually hate his guts. I don't hate many people, but he was a manipulative piece of shit, and he knows it. Story 29. I wasn't cool with him hitting my dog, full-on whacking on the muzzle hard enough the dog bit through his own tongue, to teach him not to jump up on people. I got mad at him, told him to leave my house if he wasn't going to follow how I was training my dog, and I got a text an hour later that I was a manipulative shit person, so this relationship is over. Story 30. This was years ago. A guy broke up with me because I was a Buddhist, which really confused me because I certainly was not and never have been. I had one brief conversation with a mutual friend about religion and said that I could see the appeal of certain aspects of Buddhism. Friend apparently turned around and told my ex, "Your girlfriend is a Buddhist." Ex then ghosted me for a while before officially breaking it off and telling me the reason. I corrected him, of course, and asked him why he didn't just talk to me about it, but I let the breakup stand. Story 31. In high school, my mom had me invite my BF over for dinner. She said she would make meatloaf. He was excited because his family never ate meatloaf. The day of the dinner, Mom found out her ground beef was bad, and she made chicken, instead offering to make meatloaf for a different time. He took it as an insult, saying we lied to him, and left. We had a huge argument at school the next day with him repeating that we lied to him, and me asking if he really wanted my mom to give him food poisoning by serving him meat that had been bad when she brought it. He screamed at me again. A teacher broke it up. We explained things to the teacher, and he got angrier and broke up with me when the teacher took my side by explaining how dangerous salmonella poisoning can be. Story 32. Assuming my ex genuinely believed what he was saying, and it's a question that will remain unanswered, I was broken up with because I was a member of an interstate gang of baddies who had chosen to stalk and harass a friend of his on behalf of an unnamed politician, and they had extended their harassment to their wider circle, including my ex. It's a bit crazier than that, but that's the nub of it. Story 33. Not that uncommon, but he couldn't get over his ex, which is weird because he was the chaser in our relationship. Very weird to have a guy come onto you fairly strong only to suddenly vanish. It was also weird because even though he wasn't ready to move on with me, he got with another dude like 2 months later. I ended up at a party with his ex, and the ex's phone was blowing up the whole night with calls from him. Don't believe everything you see on social media, folks. This dude was posting happy, so-in-love pictures with his new BF online while obsessively calling his ex. Story 34. Apparently, I cheated with a fictional character. I had to Google the name too, because I didn't even know who that person was, and discovered that it was a fictional character in a comic or a book. Both exited for the story, but I don't which one was published first. I can't even remember the title. I was so much confused by the accusation and questioning reality, checking LinkedIn and Facebook to see if someone may have had that name even as a reference. When I brought it up that it wasn't someone real, I was already blocked. I still want to know how that scenario would have happened, like, you'd have to 3D print that character, or what? Write a fan fiction? Or having the anime pillowcase thing of it is enough? How do you cheat with someone not real? Story 35, I guess this isn't that weird, but I think it's kinda dumb. My ex broke up with me because she needed space for her mental health. Totally valid. But she should have done it when she started feeling that way, not 6 months later after she'd been pushing me away with little to no explanation for the whole time. I get it's hard, but come on, dude.